and teach them a lesson. Then he finally reveals himself to his brothers, and he sends for his dad. He wants to see his dad. So his dad, he goes and gets his dad. His dad now has been in the land of Goshen for about 17 years. All right, so now we find Jacob on his deathbed. All right, let's pick it up in verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, Behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Jacob and said, Behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. So here again we see Jacob's on his deathbed, Israel's on his deathbed. And what they've done is they've called in the family. You know, this is the term we would use today. I got a text from Pastor Johnson a couple weeks ago, said, pray for my dad. They've called in the family. You know, that's the term we normally use when somebody's on their deathbed. They're fixing to take their last breath any minute. And we've called in the family. So, you know, they've called in the family here. And Jacob is so glad to see his family that he musters up all the strength he has just to sit up, because he's glad to see them. You know, that's probably one of the most important things about somebody being on their deathbed, wanting to be with their family, their last waking minutes of their life. They want to be with their family, and that's what happened here. I was so glad that when my granddad passed away here a few years ago, he was surrounded by his family. And I remember I called him on his deathbed and talked to him, and he was so happy to get to talk to me. But anyway, we see Joseph here on his deathbed. He starts reflecting, and he starts reminiscing, and he starts testifying to his family about how good God has been to him. And that's what we're getting ready to see. How he's just so thankful and reminiscent about how good God's been to him. Let's look at verse 3. And Jacob said unto Joseph, God Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me. See how he's going right into it, just going right into testifying about how how good God has been to him. Verse 4, and Jacob said, and said unto me, God said unto him, verse 4, and said unto me, Behold, I will make thee fruitful, multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession. Now, do you see how I want to just bring light to the fact of how calm Jacob is here on his deathbed. He's reflecting about God's everlasting covenant with him. He's reflecting about how good God has been to him and how God has blessed him. So do you see a stillness? Do you see a calmness? Do you see a peace that passeth all understanding here on his deathbed in his last waking moments? And that's calming to me, all right? Jacob's not wondering. Jacob's not biting his nails. Jacob's not sweating and grieving and wondering, oh, what's out there? I wonder what's out there. I wonder what's going to happen to me. He's got a certain peace that passeth all understanding, not like an atheist. He's not like an atheist that's fretting and fearful about what's going to happen when he crosses over to the next dimension. He's not screaming or fearful. Not like I've been into some nursing homes before, nursing home ministry, and I remember one day I saw a woman just hunkered down in her wheelchair, just screaming, pull me out of the flames, pull me out of the flames. Anybody ever seen anything like that in nursing homes? You ever seen anything like that, Miss Roxanne? Never anything like that? But I'm sure that Miss Roxanne, being a nursing home administrator, I'm sure that she could testify to the calmness and stillness and peace that is in a believer's heart when a believer is fixing to pass over to the other side. And that's what I think of here with Joseph. With Jacob. I think of the stillness and the peace here. It reminds me of Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. We see this peaceful crossing over to the promised land. I guess that's a good testimony to how Miss Roxanne runs a good show. All right, the nursing home I saw that woman in what probably wasn't the best, nursing home in the world. And but But I have seen some seems like to me, you know, people who would be the most open to the gospel, most receptive of the gospel, would be somebody who's got one foot in the grave and one foot on a banana peel. But I've seen people in nursing homes that was so bitter and hard and just angry. And, you know, but I'm thankful that, you know, I think about the stillness that Joseph had here in this peace. Look at verse 5. That's a blessing. That's a benefit of being a Christian. You know, there's been many nurses converted. Many nurses converted because they saw the mannerisms and the peace that was in a believer and the peace that was in an unbeliever as they were, you know, waiting on them and nursing them on their deathbed. And they said, you know what? I want what that believer had. I want the peace. Hey, that believer had something different. I want what that believer has. And a lot of nurses have been converted through that. Look at verse 5. And now thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt,